If you've been watching my channel for a while, you may recognize this pink sweater that I'm wearing, and you may know a little bit of the story behind it. I ordered the yarn and had it delivered to my parents' house at the end of August because I went to Norway to see my parents at the beginning of September for 2 weeks. And this is a Norwegian yarn company. It is Reimagarn alpaca silk. It has either 5 or 10% merino, and the rest is by 50-50 merino, 50-50 alpaca silk. And I love this colour. I planned to knit a sweater with it. I already bought one ball when I went to Norway last winter, so I'd knitted a swatch and worked out my tension and done some preliminary planning and things before I went to Norway. But the yarn was there waiting for me. I cast on. I tried it on as I went because it's knitted top down. I really liked it. When I came back, I only had a few days at home. Then we went to Yarndale in Yorkshire and then Scotland to see family. And while we're in Scotland, I finished it and I wove in the ends and put it straight on. But the neckline was really deep and it was quite wide neckline, and it kept falling off my shoulders, which surprised me because when I tried it on, that didn't happen. And then after a couple of weeks, I accepted the fact that I would have to knit on an edging. Don't know why I was against doing that, because I knitted on this edging and you can see it's got this double decrease at the center of the V. So I really like this sweater. When I first did this neckline, I thought it would roll because it's stocking stitch and I did an Icelandic cast off. So I thought it would roll. So I did more rounds than I thought I would really want because I assumed it would roll back a bit. And it didn't, and it was too tight. So I undid it and took out a few rounds, redid it, and it was still a bit too tight. I thought if I'm careful, I'll be okay. And then on camera, I ripped the neckline taking it off. That's in one of my Vlogtober videos, I think. So then I had to take out a few more rounds and it became perfect and I was very happy with it. Another detail I was a little bit worried about was the sleeve. So the sleeve armhole is quite deep, which I wanted because I got some long sleeve t-shirts and things with quite wide sleeves. But it means that to decrease from the armhole down to the wrist, you have to decrease quite rapidly, which I did. But I still ended up with more stitches at the wrist than I really thought I wanted. And I could do a decrease round before I did the edging, but I didn't do that. I did actually decrease a few stitches, but not enough. So the the sleeve opening at the wrist was quite big, which was fun. I quite liked it, but I would occasionally catch it in things. And then a few days ago, I was walking up the stairs and I caught it at the top of our banister and ripped it. This sweater is doomed, I tell you. This sweater is doomed. I've ripped it twice. So it was this sleeve I ripped. So I put it away for a few days. I actually wore it as well a couple of times with this ripped sweater, with this ripped cast off, because I knew it wasn't going to unravel very quickly because of the nature of the yarn. So yesterday I sat down and I filmed a little tutorial on how I fixed this problem. So how I unpicked it, and I talked through some of the different options available. So I'm going to show you that now, and then I'll come back and show you what the sleeve ended up looking like. So if you're new to my videos, my name is Anniken. I design knitting patterns, I teach knitting workshops online and in person, and I sell yarn from my website YarnAddict.co.uk. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Liking this video, commenting and subscribing helps me a lot to get my videos seen, and I'm really grateful to all my subscribers. So if you are a subscriber, thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it. The other day I was walking up the stairs, and at the top of our stairs, at the top of the banister, we have like a square flat thing on the top, and I caught my sleeve on that and I could hear a rip. But as you can see, actually I don't know if you can see it, let me just see if I can zoom in a bit more. There we go. Apologies that my nails are not perfect. So yeah, I ripped the cast off there and here. So the sleeve is knitted top down, and I have actually worn it a couple of times since I ripped the cast on, so it hasn't unraveled at all, so which is good. But I need to get this fixed, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix it. So this is where the beginning of the round is, because this is where the decreased line is. So I'm going to see if I can find the where I wove in my tail. That's the tail there. See if I can undo that first. It is much easier to unpick if you can actually unpick where you've woven in the tail. This is alpaca, silk, and a tiny bit of, I think it's like 5 or 10% merino. So 5 or 10% merino, and the rest is about 50-50 alpaca and silk. So it's not very long, very fluffy, like long hairs like mohair, but it is a little bit fluffy, so it is a little bit more difficult to unpick. I did consider putting it in a bag and putting it in the freezer, because I have been told loads of times that that makes it easier to unpick, but I didn't do that, and it's Friday afternoon and I got a bit of time, so I thought I would just film, because this is the kind of thing that could happen to anyone, and it is a bit upsetting if it's something you put a lot of time and effort into. Obviously it depends on what you're making. I'm lucky that this yarn doesn't unravel very quickly. If you're doing something that's a much smoother, slippery yarn and you think it's going to unravel, be careful and don't pull on it, because if you pull on it, it will unravel quicker. So just be careful about that. And if you are worried that it's going to unravel, just try and put the live stitches on a needle or a stitch holder or anything that's going to stop it unraveling. The other thing, if this was normal smooth yarn, I could just undo where I fastened it after casting off and then pull on it, because this is knitted top down, it should unravel fairly easily. If it was a fairly long cuff, then it might be worth cutting the yarn where the stocking stitch ends and then picking one round to kind of free up the cuff, if you like. Okay, that's because that would save you a lot of time. Same if it's knitted from the bottom up, because then it can be difficult to unpick from the cast on edge. So you'd be better off cutting the yarn at the end of the cuff, and if you're going to reknit it. If you've just broken the cast off edge and you just want to unpick that and cast off again, you may have to unpick one round and then cast off again. Then you wouldn't have to unpick as much as I do. But if you, like I'm doing, I'm actually going to unpick this and then decrease. So I'm not going to try and even catch them on my needles now. I'm just going to see if I can actually unravel this without too much of a problem, because I want to go back to the stocking stitch and decrease. I'm going to just see if I can unravel this. So which is why I'm pulling on it. If you're just doing unraveling one round or unraveling the cast off and maybe one round afterwards, then I wouldn't pull on it like I'm doing. Or if it's a very slippery yarn, I wouldn't pull on it too much, because it will unravel, it may unravel further. But because this yarn is not very slippery and it is a bit kind of caught, the fibers kind of fell together a bit when you're using a hairy yarn like some alpaca yarns and mohair. And oh, there we go, bit of yarn that came off from where I broke it, because that's one of the places where I broke it, so that's why some of these yarns are breaking off. So let me see if I can work out where the thread is. This is where I had the biggest hair, where the worst damage was. I'm very lucky that I have quite a lot of yarn left, which is good. I have a tiny ball upstairs, then I have that quite big ball, nearly full ball I think, and I may have another completely full ball, I'm not sure. But it's always worth keeping. If you have any leftover from when you knit something, it's a good idea to keep it. I know it might be a bit annoying to keep leftover yarns, because they take up space, but it is worth keeping a bit in case you have an accident and you need to do a repair. You know, just have a box or bag that you throw it into, and maybe once a year or something you go through it and you get rid of anything that belongs to sweaters that you may not have anymore. You could, if you're very organized, even label it with which sweater it is. Okay, so it's a bit I broke off again, which I think was one of the other breaks I had, because I had caught it in 2 or 3 different places. I'm nearly back at the beginning now. So that's the cast off unraveled. So let's see if it will unravel a bit easier now. I'm not going to re-knit with this yarn because I have other yarn. I'm going to re-knit with my new yarn. I think that's just easier. So I'm going to just unravel this. Okay, so I finished unraveling what I need to unravel, so I'm going to break this, leaving a bit of a tail. Because this is so curly, I'm not actually going to even bother knitting with it. I have plenty of yarn, so I'm going to knit with my new yarn. So now I need to slip these stitches back onto the needle. So the beginning of the round looks like it is here, because I can see this is my kind of decreased line. I knitted 1 stitch, increased. I say decreased line, it's actually, yes, it is decreased line because I worked top down. Okay, decreased line. I knitted 1, decreased, knitted to the last 3 stitches, decreased, and then knitted 1. So I can see that that's actually the center. If you can't find the exact center, as long as you're roughly on the right spot. So now I'm going to just slip all these stitches back on the needle. I also need to check the pattern to double check how many stitches I'm supposed to have to make sure that I haven't missed any. But to start with, I'm just going to slip these stitches back on the needle. Now when you do this, don't worry about whether they're twisted or whether they've unraveled a row. Just get them on the needle so they're secure, and then you can go through and count them all. Make sure they're all sitting correctly on your needle, and also if any of them have unraveled an extra round or 2, you can pick them up. This was knitted in the round. If yours was knitted flat and you have a seam, then you would have to undo the seam, or at least the seam at the bottom of the sleeve, before you try and do this. Probably should have said that at the beginning. Apologies, I forgot to say that. But if you have a seam, you need to undo the seam first. You don't have to undo the whole sleeve seam if you just have to fix the bottom of the sleeve, but you have to unpick a little bit. So I'm going to just slip all the rest of these stitches back on my needles, and then I'll come back and tell you what I'm going to do next. So now I think I picked up all the stitches, at least all the ones that I could see. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to just check the pattern to make sure I know how many stitches I'm supposed to have. Then I think I'm just going to work around the round, just slipping the stitches one at a time, just to double check that I've got all the stitches and they're all sitting correctly on my needle and things like that. So like here, for some reason it looks like there's a knit 2 together. I may be that I did decrease a few stitches on this final round. I'm not sure, so I need to double check because I can't remember what I did. So I'm just going to slip these stitches. Yeah, I think I probably did do some decreases on the final round because there are some knit 2 togethers here, so I might actually unpick that round and then do some more decreases. But I need to check the pattern to see exactly how many stitches I'm supposed to have and what I actually did in the pattern. And then I need to slip all the stitches to check that I've got all the stitches and they're all sitting correctly on my needle. Normally if I was going to knit around, I would just do that while I knitted the round, but because I'm going to decrease, it's easier if I just do this before I start decreasing. And then I need to work out how many stitches I want to decrease, so how much narrower I want the sleeve. I want it, because the sleeve is quite wide, which I like, but I kind of had a feeling that the wrist was probably too wide and I should have just done decreases to start with to make it narrower. So I need to work out what size I actually want the sleeve to be and how many stitches I need to decrease, and then the decrease ratio. So I need to do a bit of maths for that. And then I need to do all that on the other sleeve, which is here. So the other sleeve, there's no accident, so that's intact. So what I'm going to do is work about the beginning of the round is I will try and unpick the tail and then unravel around, unravel the cast off round, and then unravel back to the stocking stitch and then do the same thing on that round. And I will come back and show you what it looks like when I have done all that. Now you've seen how I fixed it. I fixed the one that I ripped first, and then I went and undid the other one and fixed that one. I took an educated guess at how many stitches to decrease. I went from about 88 stitches to 48 stitches. I was a little bit worried it was too much. I'm also a little bit worried that the cast off isn't that stretchy. I'm not redoing it again. I can easily get my hand through, so I'm not worried about it, and I'm less likely to catch it than anything. So that's how much ease it has now. I have big hands and quite big wrists, but I can easily get my hand, if I have my hand like spread out like that, it will still fit through. So I think I'm less likely now to catch it on things and damage it. So I'm much happier with it. And luckily I haven't actually written up the pattern yet. I am planning to do that. I'm going to try and start it this week. I may not have time, maybe next week, but my goal is to get this pattern written up into my tech editor before the end of November, definitely. So the pattern, I think, will come with a few different options. So it will basically, I'm hoping to do it with like mix and match sleeve and body sizing. So you can choose your body size and your sleeve size from different size options if you like. So if you want a armhole that's not as deep, you can choose that. And this is basically now turned into like a balloon sleeve. So I'm going to do an option that includes balloon sleeves and also an option that does not. So if you don't want it such a deep armhole, how you can do it without having balloon sleeves. So there's a few different options. Once I start actually writing the pattern, we will see how easy that becomes. Because this is just stocking stitch, it should be okay. Problem is when you have stitch patterns and things to think about, and the placement of those and the stitch pattern repeat and things. So I think it should be okay. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If this has ever happened to you, or if it does happen to you in the future, you know that you can always fix it. As I said in the video, it's always a good idea to keep little balls of leftover yarn. I had this ball up here. I used a bigger one to actually fix this problem, but that would have been more than enough. I didn't re-knit what I unraveled, but I could have done easily, but that would have been more than enough. So keep any leftover yarn, and if you're very organized, put them in Ziploc bags with a label from the yarn and maybe a note of where you actually knitted with it, and needle size and things like that. I'm not that organized, but because it is my pattern, I have all the patterns saved on my laptop, so it's easier to access for me. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing, and let me know in the comments if anything like this has ever happened to you. Have you accidentally ruined a sweater, ripped it? I'm glad it was the wrist that went, because that was fairly easy to fix. If I'd caught it somewhere else, it would have been more of a problem, but because it was the wrist, it was fairly easy to fix. I'm quite pleased about that. Wrist and the hem of the body and the neckline, I think, are the easiest things to fix, especially a sweater like this that's completely seamless and knitted in one piece. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.